Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so excited this afternoon because we're speaking with Colin Corrington and Lon Varns from Aries Fraud Solutions, the founder and co-founder, and they're going to talk to us about protecting your transactions. So, I was wondering if you can take turns telling us about your backgrounds, um, telling us about your roles at Aries Fraud Solutions, please. And by the way, I'm so honored to have both of you here. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Carolyn, for having us. Yeah. So I'll start it. My name's Lon Varns. I am the founder of Aries Fraud Solutions. My background is banking. I've been in the payment space for 15, 20 years, and I've always been asked, what can I do about stopping the debit and credit card fraud problem? And that's what we're excited to talk to you about. And on this journey with me is my co-founder, Colin Corrington. I'll let him.
And I'm not from the banking industry. My background comes a lot more from operations, sales, things of that nature. So I've learned a lot about the banking industry and getting into the financial side of things. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been very interesting.
That's perfect. Actually, that's the perfect duo when you can complement each other, right?
Or fight.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a compliment. It's more like a brother love-hate relationship, but that's what it is. Yeah.
Mostly love.
That sounds amazing. I was wondering if you can tell us about the values and mission of Aries Fraud Solutions.
Yeah, our value structure is pretty much let's just do the right thing for the right reasons. And if you focus on just being a good steward of the resources you're entrusted with, good things typically happen. So we focus on just basically being a good steward of those resources. And our mission is basically to disrupt the negative experience that card fraud is for all people that are impacted, which is probably just about every single person that's going to watch your podcast.
Yeah, and our values, we're both godly men, and I think that's where most of our values begin. Do unto others, go about the best way you possibly can, and that's the way we work and play, and that's what we really focus on. And card fraud it's a nasty business. Most people don't realize it. It's not some thug that lives on the corner of your street. It's international cartels. It's human smugglers. It's really the bad players of humanity. And so it's kind of gratifying to be able to really put a dent in what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. I absolutely love it. And I find that the world is lacking a lot of trust at this point in time, mainly because there's a lot of scammers and fraudsters around. So I think that what you're doing is very honorable. Now we'd like to hear about your special product. What are you experts in, and how do you provide this value to the collective?
I'll let you handle the.
Well, you tell them how this whole thing came about, because I think that's important too.
Yeah. So I mentioned that my background was banking, and I was hired, I don't know, about 12, 13 years ago to go work at this small West Texas bank, and specifically asked to focus on alleviating their card fraud problem. So I did every single thing that the industry told you to do, all the best practices. We gave everybody a chip card, cleaned up their portfolio, spent about $1 million. And at the end of the year, my job was in jeopardy because fraud was up 17% over the previous year. And despite doing everything that we were told to do, the fraudsters were just faster and they adapted much more quickly than we could respond. And so that started me on this journey, which led us to Aries. And I'll let him kind of tell about the product.
Yeah, and I always joke that because we're technically a fintech company, a financial technology company, and we're the least techie of the bunch. We don't have any software or hardware or programming or anything like that goes into our product. It's just a smarter way to issue cards. The long and short of it is, here, it's usually easier with a demo card here, but everybody's got a credit card, a debit card, something like that in their wallet. And what they know to be true is your credit card number, if it's all ones in this example, 11111, it's also in your mag stripe, it's in your chip, and it's also in the tap to pay antenna. The problem is fraudsters don't steal the number off the front of your card. They steal it off your mag stripe, or they steal it off the tap to pay antenna. That's where they're actually getting the information from. So we just change the numbers. So if this number is 11111, we put 222 in the mag stripe. So we put two numbers on one card, and we just log down on how those two different card numbers are used in your transactions. So that accounts for 82% of all card fraud, according to the Nielsen report, and it's $1 billion a month problem. Banks and credit unions are losing a documented $1 billion every single month, and so it's a really big problem that we have a really simple solution that makes a big impact.
Brilliant. It's terrifying, actually. Can you give us a story, maybe, the listeners a story about the value that you provide to the collective and how it's served a bank or a credit union, for example? You don't need to name names, but we.
Tell them about your Uncle Ted.
Well,
Speaking of naming names,
there. I'll give you an example of a type of card fraud that is extremely pervasive. There is so much information for sale on the dark web, especially with all the data breaches of personal information. If you've ever had a car loan or a mortgage, your information is for sale. And what's happening now is banks, credit unions have a customer or a member that their card got scammed, or some waitress at an Olive Garden stole the information when she went to go pay your bill, whatever. And then they're marrying up that information with stolen online information, cell phone, social security number, etc. And they know what bank that card is issued to, because the first few numbers of the card identify the issuing bank. And so they will pretend to be a call center representative from XYZ bank or credit union, and they say, "Hey, did you use your card in Chicago?" And the customer said, "No, I'm not in Chicago. I'm in San Antonio." "Okay, well, I'm going to send you a code because I want to look and make sure that there isn't other fraud that occurred on your account." They're sending him a code, and what really is happening is it's a fraudster pretending to be the bank employee, and they're provisioning that stolen card information into a phone. And now, once it's in that phone, once that person reads off that code, then that fraudster can go through and just about bypass every fraud rule, because that's a verified, secure transaction, and they can just drain the account. And what makes this doubly impactful is, one, the bank can't charge those transactions back. They're just gone. And two, the cardholder, one, was a victim of card fraud, but two, they thought that their bank or their credit union protected them, and they really didn't. It was the fraudster pretending to be the bank. So they've kind of been doubly taken advantage of. And it goes to the fact that, there are so many people that are doing the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And we're just going to stop that. We're going to stop a good chunk of that. May not stop all of it, but any amount of that we stop is going to be a big win from a societal standpoint.
So it's actually scary what you're saying. So you're saying everything can just be drained out of a bank account? Like, what about insurance and all of that?
well, the insurance is actually the bank. According to federal regulations, if a person is a victim of fraud, it's the bank's responsibility to make them whole again. And there's even bad players that take advantage of that. It's called first party fraud, or sometimes referenced as friendly fraud. And we'll be able to put a dent in that as well. So it's the banks and credit unions that are really getting raked over the coals. And I realize that everybody thinks that banks and credit unions just have tons of money and they could just go ahead and pay it. But it's getting to the point where a lot of banks are starting to fail because of fraud numbers. And we were just at a conference a couple months ago in Oklahoma, and you have to forgive me, it was an FBI guy or a Secret Service guy or something like that. And he said that the Federal Trade Commission actually thinks that the number is closer to $164 billion a year that is leaving the United States due to fraud incidences, which creates a national security concern. It is a massive problem. And yes, what Lon said is 100% true. It's called account takeover fraud. And they can drain 100% of your money in an hour, and you won't be able to get it back.
Wow, it makes you kind of wonder, should I use a bank? Should I use bank, But
Well,
As
wow.
long as they're with Aries Fraud Solutions, yes, yes, you should.
Well, the good news in all that scenario is the customer's protected. The cardholder if there is fraud, the bank will have to absorb that loss. But it's an unsustainable amount and it's rising every single year. And so it is causing, to his point, it's causing pressure on banks and credit unions from being able to stay in business. Because if they can't protect their customers or their members, then that's their number one job, their number one responsibility. And if they're unable to do that effectively, then they'll either go out of business or they'll be forced to merge, or they will cease to exist.
Right. From looking at your website before we met, your product is called Obscurity Card, correct?
Yes.
And I was wondering, is there anything more that you would like to tell the listeners about this product?
I think the biggest thing to take away is there are a number of solutions in this space. Card fraud effectively has been solved. The cardholder can go on their online website or their mobile banking app or whatever, and most places have the ability to turn their card off when not in use. That's something that most of your viewers have the ability to do today. The reason that that's not effective is it requires that cardholder to participate in that transaction. Our solution doesn't require any app. It doesn't require any involvement. It doesn't change their usage behavior whatsoever. You can give our card to your 87-year-old grandmother, and she can continue to use the card today as she does her current card. So we don't require a change in how it's used. We just kind of operate in the background and make sure that the people are safe and protected.
And I would say that we're not the end all be all. We don't stop 100% of fraud. If I whack you over the head, Carolyn, and I take your purse, I get to be you until you wake up and call the bank, right? So but we're a very, very effective layer, and we touch a layer that not many other people touch, which is the card not present. That's specifically what we touch. And like I stated earlier, according to the Nielsen report, that's over 80% of what's happening with card fraud. And not many people touch it the way that it needs to be handled. We're a truly preventative solution. We stop transactions before they even happen. A lot of the more current things like AI and all of that stuff, it's trying to decision. It's making decisions and guesses on whether or not it's you spending that money. And sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's right. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for AI, because there 100% is. I do think it's a strong solution, but it's not touching the biggest part of the problem.
Effectively.
Right.
Not effectively.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great distinction. What trends are you seeing in your industry? What is a factor for you guys?
I do a number of speaking engagements where I just talk about card and card fraud, and what we're seeing is, if you look at card fraud over the last 25 years, there's only been 2 or 3 years in that entire time frame where card fraud was a little bit less than the year before. So card fraud has been rising every single year, and it's already at an unsustainable amount. AI solutions, reactive solutions, those things have existed for a number of years. And it's just the fact that the fraudsters it's like whack-a-mole. As soon as you come up with a solution, you have to be able to jump into the next lane and predict where the next stream of fraud is coming. And so with the emergence of the need for faster payments, we've had to lower some of the protections, if you will, which has allowed fraudsters the ability to have easier access to obtain this information. And so I think the biggest trend is there's this need for speed, but if you have real-time payments or real-time solutions, you really need to make sure that you have real-time defenses as well. And if you don't, then you're just allowing the fraudsters a channel to be able to more effectively steal your members' money.
Yeah, and I'd say the other trend is like Lon hit the nail on the head. Fraud is out of control. It is rampant. Sometimes I feel like I'm selling snow cones in the desert, because it's something that they desperately need and desperately want. But I would say, like, one of the trends that we're swimming against is kind of this AI bubble that we see going on. We do a lot of work We do a lot of conferences, we do a lot of things like that, and we run into the big venture capitalist guys and the blogosphere that wants to talk about whatever's new and sexy. And unfortunately, what we do isn't new and sexy because it doesn't have the letters AI in it. And so that's one trend that we're trying to buck a little bit, and we're starting to get some real traction in that maybe AI isn't the only solution. There's other ways to handle this problem. And Lon made a good joke the other day saying that we're basically the zipper of the industry. Like, everybody's got one on their pants, but nobody really talks about it, and it's extremely effective at what it does, and that's us. There's nothing really to break, and you get a zipper and you're good to go. And that's kind of that's one trend I will say we have to swim against. That makes it a little bit harder for us.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that for sure. How does this affect your growth strategy, though? Does it, or not really?
Well, that's the nice thing about being a startup. Growth is growth. So one foot in front of the other. It's definitely impacted on how we approach certain things. Where we find our ideal customers, where we're thinking. We focus a lot on what we call a beachhead strategy, where we're really dialed into who we're going to go talk to kind of preserve energy and also be able to utilize the referral sources that we have.
Right.
But since then, the lanes that we're finding are kind of naturally presenting themselves. But with those trends, it's about paying attention to what happens in the industry, and it's never good practice to crap on your competitors or anything like that. I'm a firm believer in that. But it's important to know where they are and where they're coming from and what they're capable of. And once you understand that, you can see how you fit into just about any puzzle.
Yeah, and in terms of our competitors, whatever a bank or credit union is currently doing today, we don't replace that. We complement it. We are like he said, we are a layer. And so whatever AI or reactive rule solutions they're using, we make those solutions better and more effective. And regarding scaling, one of the things to scale those AI or these rules-based engines is you need massive server farms. You need to, you can't go from 100 to 5,000 banks or credit unions, quickly, because you have to spin up your data center to be able to account for that. Ours, we can go from 1 to 1,000, and there is no need for new server farms, et cetera. It's just making sure that we have this, really repeatable playbook in place, showing them how to issue their cards a little bit smarter and how you can leverage this solution to improve your other solutions. And the better we are at identifying that messaging, the more effective we will at being able to get this out and get it scaled.
That's great. It sounds like you have such a simple solution to something, right? But it's such a huge problem, kind of like the zipper thing. I mean, right? Everyone needs to use it because it's so rampant. Wow. So, and another thing I wanted to add is Aries Fraud Solutions is a startup right now, but wait until the day that everyone uses your product, right?
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping somebody from Visa or MasterCard's on here and they tell us to mandate it, because it's simpler than the EMV chip or any other mandates that they've been going through recently. It's really, like you said, it'll scale quickly, and
Yes.
we scale from the smallest bank to the biggest bank. It doesn't matter. It's easy to install and relatively easy to install depending on who you work with. But yeah, it's a simple solution that we're really proud of.
It's brilliant, actually. So, where do you guys see Aries Fraud Solutions in 6 months to a year from now, Colin and Lon?
Was it St. Lucia?
Yeah, 6 months to a year from now, it's going to be a busy 6 months to a year. Our wives are going to be grumbling at us because we've got such amazing growth, and glory to God for helping open up some doors there. But we've really got quite a bit of implementations over the next 6 months or so. And a year from now will definitely be a much bigger blip on the radar. Right now, coming out of the gate, not a lot of folks have heard about us. But as we start to get the messaging out there, people are like, well, that seems like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I do that?
Exactly.
And that's where I think that this starts to become in about a year.
Yeah, no, in 6 months to a year from now, I see us being way busier. I'd say in 3 years from now, I see us being a lot less busy, but because we should have the systems in place to take care of the rest of it. But in the meantime, we still got some growing pains to get through.
Yeah, for sure. That's so awesome. So I just want to let all of our listeners know that if they want to speak to Colin Corrington or Lon Varns, they can do so by each respective LinkedIn profile. Um, Colin, your name's on the screen, so I'll spell it out anyways, just for our listeners so that they can hear. It's COLLIN and Lon Varns is LONVARNS. And you can also get a hold of them through ariesfraudsolutions.com. There's a contact form on there. And so if you want to get a hold of them, definitely do that. I was wondering if you have anything to add as a key takeaway or in closing.
The one thing also is if you're at a conference, you might look for the guys in the cowboy hats because we're about the only two at these conferences in Vegas walking around with a cowboy hat on. So those are the guys in the hats, and that's probably the biggest thing that steps us apart. We're about as night and day different from any other fintech solution there is. So might as well look.
And we don't own a single pair of skinny jeans. I promise.
Right. And I have socks. Every time I wear shoes, I'm wearing socks. So that's how you can find us.
I would say the one thing is if you have any curiosity at all, give us a call. Like it's not a 7 hour pitch. It's not it doesn't take long to explain. Typically, the questions we get are, does it integrate into our system? And the answer is yes, because there is no hardware or software. So it integrates just about into anything. But if you're legitimately curious, just reach out to us. Like, it's not painful. We keep it pretty light and easy. And I always joke with everybody, I set up 30-minute meetings. I'm going to talk for 10 and let you ask questions for 20. And if you don't have 20 minutes worth of questions, we'll be done in 10. So it's a pretty easy concept to get your head wrapped around. So don't be afraid to reach out. And we're not sophisticated enough to have a 78-point email drip campaign or something like that.
Yep.
So we don't have spam because we're too busy to create spam. We don't even have time to create it.
Good call, Colin. And remember, you're looking for the what did you call it? Sorry, the hats.
The cowboy
Oh, the cowboy. Yeah,
Cowboy hats.
we have high back chairs here, so it's hard to wear them. But yeah, typically if you see two guys at a conference in cowboy hats, that's probably us.
That's right. Thank you for that.
And cowboy, like as in the guys that ride horses, not the star logo.
Yes. Yes. Of course. Thanks for that distinction. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an honor having both of you. You're very personable guys. So definitely approach them if you see the cowboy hats, and have a nice afternoon.
Thanks, Carolyn.